How do the Amish manage to feed big families, sometimes 10 or 12 people, using gardens smaller than most suburban yards? It's not magic, and it's not machinery. It's generations of quiet observation, careful soil work, and habits passed down by hand, not through textbooks. These folks have been growing enough to last a year for more than 2 centuries, all without store-bought fertilizers, gas-powered tools, or fancy technology. And what's remarkable is how much they grow in so little space. Rows packed tight, vines climbing upward, herbs tucked between vegetables. Everything has a purpose and nothing goes to waste. Today, I'll walk you through those very same old country tricks that turn a small garden into a place of real abundance. Practical ideas you can try right at home, no matter how little space you've got. When you walk past an Amish homestead in late summer, the first thing you notice isn't just the order, it's the fullness. Tomato vines hang heavy along wooden stakes. Cabbage heads swell between rows of beans. Even narrow patches near a fence seem to burst with life. At dawn, you'll see a father and his son stooped in the rows, hose in hand, while the air is still cool and the roosters call. No motors, no spray bottles, just soil that's alive, hands that know what they're feeling, and hearts that trust the rhythm of nature. For the Amish, a small garden isn't a limitation, it's a chance to be deliberate. Every square foot is thought through. Every plant earns its space. The three sisters. The Amish often plant corn, beans, and squash together, an old native method they call the three sisters. It looks simple, but it's nature's design at work. Corn grows tall, giving the beans something to climb. Beans, in return, feed nitrogen into the soil for both. And squash spreads low, its wide leaves shading the ground to keep it cool and moist. The result? In one patch, you get 3 harvests: grain, protein, and vegetable, all working in harmony. Modern gardeners later proved this partnership can raise yields by a third and nearly eliminate the need for fertilizer. The Amish didn't need studies to tell them that. They've trusted this trio for generations. Raised rows that breathe. Instead of fancy wooden raised beds, the Amish shaped the soil itself into soft, rounded rows about a foot high. These raised rows drain well after heavy rain yet stay warm and rich inside. They're easy to walk between, easy to water, and the loose soil lets roots travel deep. I watched one farmer shape a whole garden this way, using nothing but a rake and his boot heel. "You build the row like you'd build a cradle," he said. "It should breathe and hold." The raised rows act like living sponges, soaking up moisture and air. And while modern gardeners spend hundreds on lumber boxes, the Amish get better results with simple mounded earth. Studies have shown those soft ridges even produce stronger root systems and earlier harvests, all from a bit of handwork and patience. Square-foot planting in a patch. Amish gardens don't waste space. Many of them use what we now call square-foot gardening, though they never name it that. They simply picture each patch of ground as small, measured squares. One for lettuce, one for onions, one for carrots, each planned so roots and leaves don't crowd each other. I once saw an Amish woman plan her garden using a stick and a length of twine instead of a ruler. "The Lord likes neatness," she smiled, "and neatness feeds more mouths." This tidy method makes weeding easier, watering simpler, and yields surprisingly heavy harvests from a small plot. Modern home gardeners who adopt this system often double what they can grow. And the Amish have quietly done it for hundreds of years, guided by nothing but twine, patience, and good memory. Companion pairing, tomatoes and basil. In almost every Amish garden, you'll find tomatoes and basil sharing the same soil. They say, "What grows well together on the plate grows well together in the ground." The basil keeps bugs and worms away, while the tomatoes give it a bit of cool shade in the heat of summer. I once watched an Amish grandmother snip basil leaves between rows of tomatoes, the scent filling the air. She said, "You can tell when they like each other. The basil smells stronger." The science backs her wisdom. Basil repels tomato hornworms and actually helps the fruit develop richer flavor. It's a partnership that's as old as the soil itself, 2 friends growing side by side, each making the other better. Interplanting fast and slow crops. The Amish are careful not to let space go to waste. When they sow slower-growing plants like carrots or cabbage, they tuck in fast growers, lettuce, radishes, or spinach between them. By the time the slower plants spread, the quick crops have already been picked and enjoyed at the table. It's smart timing, and modern garden planners now call it succession layering. You get two harvests from the same ground, and the quick shade from early greens even helps the soil stay cool and moist for the next wave of crops. Vertical vine support. Where most folks let their beans or squash crawl on the ground, the Amish teach them to climb. They tie simple poles or stretch twine between fence posts, turning empty air into growing space. It's a humble kind of vertical gardening, long before that word ever caught on. An Amish boy once showed me his trellis made of willow branches, saying proudly, "Pa says this one's strong enough for pumpkins." Sure enough, tiny squash hung like lanterns, ripening clean and round above the dirt. Lifting vines off the soil keeps them healthy, prevents rot, and saves room for more plants below. Modern gardeners find they can double yield from the same patch, a simple trick the Amish have quietly used for centuries. Succession planting for constant harvest. The Amish don't plant everything at once. They sow a few rows every week or two. That way, when one row is ready to pick, another is just starting to sprout. It keeps the pantry full and the work steady, instead of one big rush at harvest time. I remember one farmer saying, "A garden should feed you all season, not all at once." It's a rhythm built into their lives, steady, patient, never hurried. Today we call that succession planting, but for the Amish, it's just common sense. It gives them a long, rolling harvest and fresher food every week. Even small gardens can feed a family right through the fall with this gentle timing. Cold frames from old window. In early spring, when frost still clings to the mornings, the Amish don't wait for warm weather. They make their own. They take old barn wood and spare glass windows, building simple cold frames over small beds. The sun warms the air inside during the day, and the earth holds that heat overnight. I saw one near Lancaster with a row of lettuce sprouting under a cracked window pane. The farmer grinned and said, "Old glass, new life." These frames stretch the growing season by weeks, even months. Modern gardeners spend hundreds on greenhouses, but the Amish manage nearly the same results with scrap wood and a bit of know-how. It's proof that abundance doesn't come from money, it comes from ingenuity. Hay bale mini greenhouses. When spring nights are still cold, the Amish line their garden beds with straw bales, forming little walls around young plants. The bales trap warmth and block the wind, turning a simple patch of earth into a cozy, living greenhouse. Sometimes, they even set an old window or piece of tin across the top for extra shelter. I saw one garden like that after a late frost on every roof around, but the lettuce inside those hay walls stood tall and bright. The farmer smiled and said, "The hay keeps them warm like a blanket keeps a baby." The trick works because straw holds heat and moisture while slowly breaking down into compost. It's a perfect circle, warmth now, soil later. Modern trials found it raises soil temperature by several degrees, letting seeds sprout weeks earlier than normal. Deep compost layers. The Amish never let organic matter go to waste. They layer everything: straw, kitchen scraps, manure, leaves, one atop another until it looks like a slow-cooked lasagna of life. Over time, rain and worms pull it down into the earth, creating rich, black soil that never needs synthetic fertilizer. I once heard an Amish woman say, "Feed the soil like you'd feed a friend, regular and kind." And that's exactly what they do. Each layer adds warmth, nutrition, and texture. Modern gardeners now call it lasagna gardening, but the Amish have practiced it for generations. It saves space because good soil grows more in less ground. Healthy deep compost layers can double plant growth and reduce watering by half, all from what most people throw away. Wood ash fertilizing carefully. After a long winter of stove fires, Amish families save their ashes in big metal buckets. Come spring, that gray dust becomes their natural fertilizer. A light sprinkle across the soil adds potassium, calcium, and trace minerals that keep plants strong. But they're careful. A little too much can burn young roots. One old farmer told me, "Ash is like salt. Too much spoils the soup." That gentle touch keeps the balance right. Modern soil tests agree. Wood ash raises pH and strengthens flowering plants like tomatoes and peppers. The Amish figured that out long before anyone studied it, just by paying attention to how the land responded year after year. Chickens as mobile fertilizer. If you ever visit an Amish farm, you'll notice chickens aren't just for eggs. They're part of the gardening system itself. Before planting, the chickens are allowed to roam over the beds, scratching the ground, eating bugs, and leaving behind, well, their contribution. I once watched a young Amish boy scatter feed between old corn rows. The hens went right to work, tilling the soil faster than any machine. He laughed and said, "They work cheap, but never take a day off." Modern homesteaders now copy the same method using chicken tractors, but the Amish have done it simply for centuries, just by letting animals and earth care for each other. Living clover between row. Instead of bare dirt paths, many Amish plant clover between their vegetable rows. It keeps weeds from taking over, keeps the soil cool, and feeds nitrogen into the ground all year long. When the clover grows thick, they simply trim it or let the chickens graze on it. Modern soil studies show clover roots pull carbon deep into the ground, making it richer and more fertile over time. But the Amish never cared much for the science. They just saw their soil stay black and sweet year after year. Root cellar thinking, even above ground. The Amish think about storage even before they plant. They choose crops that keep well, like potatoes, beets, and turnips, foods that can rest for months in a cool root cellar. But not every Amish home has one underground. Some use shaded sheds or insulated boxes packed with sand or straw to keep produce fresh long after harvest. I once saw a family store carrots in old milk crates filled with damp sand. The farmer winked and said, "They sleep better than I do in winter." This root cellar thinking helps them grow smart, not just big. Every crop earns its place by lasting long, feeding the family well past the growing season. It's proof that good planning can make a small garden feel twice as large. Microclimate mapping. Before the Amish plant a single seed, they study their land. They notice where the frost lingers, where the soil stays damp, and where the morning sun hits first. They match every plant to its perfect corner: lettuce in the cool shade, tomatoes near the warm fence line, herbs where the breeze can reach them. I remember one older farmer pointing to his yard and saying, "The land tells you what it wants if you take the time to listen." By using microclimates, those tiny zones of warmth and shade, the Amish can grow a variety of crops even in tight spaces. It's quiet wisdom that modern gardeners often overlook, but it's one of the biggest reasons their small plots thrive year after year. Row beds, deep roots. Amish garden beds aren't wide. Most are just 3 or 4 feet across. That way, you can reach the middle from both sides without ever stepping on the soil. It keeps the ground loose, airy, and easy for roots to dig deep. I once asked an Amish man why his garden rows looked so slim. He said, "You don't need wide ground, just deep ground." And he was right. Those narrow beds make planting, weeding, and watering simpler, and every inch of soil stays productive. Modern soil experts later found that deep-rooted plants yield more and resist drought better. But the Amish didn't need proof. They learned it from the earth itself. Sand layers for root crops. For root vegetables like carrots and parsnips, the Amish mix layers of coarse sand into their planting beds. It helps the roots grow long and straight without twisting or cracking. The sand also keeps the soil loose, draining away excess water during heavy rains. An Amish boy once pulled up a perfect foot-long carrot and laughed. "It's straight as a preacher's tie." That small layer of sand makes all the difference. Clean roots, easy harvesting, and better storage later on. Modern growers use the same trick under fancy names like aerated soil blends. But to the Amish, it's just another old habit that's never stopped working. Cut and come again. The Amish rarely pull up lettuce or spinach by the root. Instead, they trim the outer leaves and let the plant keep growing. Within a week or two, fresh leaves appear, ready to pick again, a gentle rhythm of harvest and regrowth. I remember seeing an Amish woman with a simple basket and scissors saying, "No sense killing what still wants to give." It's a small act of patience that yields far more over time. Studies show this cut-and-come-again method can triple your leafy harvest without replanting. And for the Amish, it's not about numbers. It's about gratitude and steady giving from the same patch of earth. If you're enjoying these old-fashioned ways as much as I enjoy sharing them, Take a moment to like and subscribe. It helps keep these timeless traditions alive, the ones that remind us that patience and care grow more than any machine ever could. Interplanting pest-repellent herbs. The Amish don't plant herbs just for flavor, they plant them for protection. Between rows of cabbage or tomatoes, you'll often find basil, dill, or onions quietly standing guard. Their strong scents confuse pests that rely on smell to find their favorite crops. I remember one woman in Lancaster saying, if the bugs can't find supper, they leave the table. She had basil circling her tomato patch like a tiny green fence, and the leaves on those tomatoes were spotless. This little trick means fewer pest problems without a drop of spray. You can tuck herbs between vegetables in any small garden. They don't take up much room, and they earn every inch they grow on. Mulch from what? On hand. The Amish rarely buy mulch. Instead, they use whatever's nearby: leaves, straw, old hay, or even wood shavings from their shops. It's never about perfection. It's about practicality. One farmer showed me his hands, rough from years of raking straw, and said, the ground should never be bare. Nature doesn't like emptiness. That mulch keeps moisture in, keeps weeds out, and slowly feeds the soil as it breaks down. It's such a simple act, but it turns dry, tired ground into living earth again. A thick blanket of mulch can mean the difference between wilted crops and lush, thriving ones by midsummer. Dense planting. If you walk through an Amish garden in July, you might be surprised how close everything grows. Rows of greens overlap, beans climb right beside corn, and the soil is barely visible. That's intentional. They plant densely so the leaves shade the ground, keeping the moisture trapped below. It's a living mulch. The soil stays cool, and weeds hardly stand a chance. An Amish man once told me, if you can see too much dirt, you're wasting space. And he was right. The result is a garden that waters itself and yields far more than you'd expect from such a small patch. Alleyways for foraging. Even the narrowest paths in an Amish garden earn their keep. Instead of wasting space on wide, empty walkways, they create slender alleyways, just enough room to carry a basket. Along these edges, they'll plant small crops like lettuce, radishes, or clover. Every inch of land has purpose. These alleyways make tending easy while turning walkways into extra harvest zones. It's a humble reminder that you don't need more land, just more thoughtfulness in how you use what you already have. Simple rainwater catchment. While most folks rely on hoses and sprinklers, the Amish let the sky do the work. Under every roof, a barn, shed, or porch, you'll likely see barrels waiting to catch the next rainfall. A single downpour fills them enough to water the garden for days. The system couldn't be simpler. Gutters guide the rain into wooden or metal tubs, and gravity does the rest. No pumps, no noise. Just patience. An Amish woman once told me, the sky gives enough, we just have to catch it. She used that rainwater to refill her watering can, the cool liquid soft and gentle on tender seedlings. The plants seemed to know the difference. They stood taller after every rain-fed drink. Even a single barrel by a shed can turn dry spells into effortless abundance. Hand-watering patterns that save water. The Amish treat watering like a craft, quiet, slow, and deliberate. Instead of sprinklers spraying in all directions, they water by hand, directly at the base of each plant. It may seem old-fashioned, but it saves gallons and strengthens the plants from the roots up. I once watched an old man water his beans with a metal pail. He knelt for each pour, letting the soil drink deeply before moving on. A plant watered shallow, he said, will live shallow. This deep, careful watering trains the roots to dig down where it's cool and damp. The result? Fewer thirsty plants and less wasted water. It's not about how fast you water, it's about how wisely. Slow hands grow stronger gardens. Small-scale crop rotation plan. Amish gardeners remember where every seed has been. Even on small plots, they rotate crops yearly. Beans never follow beans, and heavy feeders like corn rest after their turn. There are no written charts, just memories and habits passed down through seasons. An Amish man once said, if you move the meal, the bugs go hungry. And that's the idea. Pests and diseases lose track when the crops change spots. The soil, too, stays balanced since each plant type gives and takes different nutrients. It's simple, natural pest control without chemicals or effort. You can do the same, even in backyard beds. Keep a mental note of what grew where, and your garden will repay you with healthier, happier soil each year. Seed saving and local adaptation. Inside every Amish home, there's a small treasure, jars filled with seeds from last season's best plants. These aren't store-bought. They're living records of the land. Over generations, these seeds learn the soil, the climate, and the gardener's touch. I once watched a family sort through their seed jars after supper. Each jar had a handwritten label: Mother's Beans, 1984, Hardy Tomatoes, 2002. They smiled, proud of the lineage. An older man told me, "These seeds know this land better than I do." And it's true. They sprout stronger, resist pests better, and adapt with each passing year. It's quiet, patient science, done by heart and hand. Saving your own seeds keeps your garden connected to your soil and to your story. Ferment and preserve mindset. For the Amish, gardening doesn't end with harvest. It continues right into the kitchen. Many crops are planted not just for eating fresh, but for preserving. Cucumbers for pickles, cabbage for kraut, beans for drying, all part of a year-round plan. In one home I visited, 3 women sat at a long wooden table, slicing cucumbers and packing jars with dill. The whole room smelled of vinegar and summer. They laughed softly as they worked, turning today's harvest into tomorrow's meals. This mindset changes everything. They plant in waves so nothing goes to waste, a rhythm between field and pantry. You don't just grow food for the week, you grow for the winter. That's how abundance lasts, through planting, patience, and a few good jars. Dense pole bean rows for vertical protein. Protein doesn't take much space if you grow it up instead of out. The Amish love pole beans for that reason. They plant them thickly at the base of wooden poles or even corn stalks, letting vines climb high and green walls form around the garden. I once walked through a garden where the beans formed a living tunnel. Children darted between the rows, laughing as they picked handfuls of pods. The farmer said, "You don't need more land, you just need taller plants." Those beans feed families all summer and dry into next year's seeds by fall. One small patch can fill barrels with food. It's vertical abundance, a reminder that when space is scarce, the sky is still wide open. Shade cropping to extend summer yield. Amish gardeners are clever with sunlight. They know not all crops love the same amount. In the heat of midsummer, they grow lettuce or spinach beneath taller plants like corn, beans, or sunflowers. The shade keeps the soil cool and the greens from bolting too early. It's a simple, thoughtful balance, a garden where each plant helps another. The result is longer harvests and less waste, all from the same square of soil. Row covers and simple frost cloths. When frost creeps in, the Amish don't rush to the store. They reach for what they already have. Old sheets, burlap, or thin blankets become their frost guards. They drape them gently over hoops or stakes each evening and lift in the morning. These covers don't cost a penny, yet they stretch the growing season weeks longer. It's proof that care and timing are worth more than any gadget. Pocket composting near bed. The Amish don't see composting as a separate task. It's part of their daily rhythm. Instead of building big bins or hauling scraps across the yard, they often practice what's called pocket composting. Whenever a cabbage leaf, eggshell, or potato peel comes from the kitchen, they'll dig a small hole near a garden bed, drop it in, and cover it with soil. Over weeks, the earth digests those scraps right where nutrients are needed most. It's effortless, invisible, and deeply effective. You'll find tiny markers, a flat rock or stick, noting where the next planting will go. The soil in those pockets turns rich and dark, alive with worms. To the Amish, feeding the soil this way feels like returning blessings, simple, steady, and quietly powerful. Intercropping with perennials. Walk along an Amish garden border, and you'll see how no space goes unused. Instead of fences or empty edges, you'll find rows of asparagus, rhubarb, or low-berry bushes lining the perimeter. These perennials return every year, needing little care, while protecting the annual crops inside from wind and erosion. Between them, the Amish tuck quick growers, lettuce, peas, or herbs that benefit from the shade and moisture retention perennials provide. It's a living balance, short-term harvest beside long-term security. Come midsummer, children pick berries as parents weed the rows, all within a few steps of each other. This thoughtful layering of crops ensures food from spring to frost, beauty at every border, and a sense that the land itself gives back year after year. Simple soil tests. There are no store-bought soil kits in most Amish farms, just years of touch, sight, and memory. They'll kneel, grab a handful of earth, and know exactly what it needs. If it clumps loosely, it's healthy. If it turns to dust or mud, they adjust with compost, ashes, or a sprinkle of lime. Each season, they notice the small changes, how rain drains, how worms return, how roots spread. The Amish believe the soil tells stories, and if you listen closely, you'll always know how to care for it. No science lab needed, just humble observation and patience. Using feed scraps, dairy for soil boost. Nothing goes to waste on an Amish homestead, not even old milk or feed dust. When milk sours, they'll mix it with water and pour it near struggling plants. Calcium and probiotics restore vitality to the soil. Grain dust from the feed room becomes mulch for raised beds. Even a bit of leftover buttermilk is stirred into compost tea, giving microbes a feast to multiply. This gentle recycling mimics nature. Every leftover becomes a new life somewhere else. The results show in color, deeper greens, sturdier stems, sweeter fruits. It's the kind of quiet efficiency that keeps Amish gardens thriving with little cost, proving that what most people throw away can become the secret to abundance. Orchards in tight rows. The Amish rarely plant fruit trees far apart. Instead, they space dwarf varieties close, often just 6 to 8 feet between trunks, creating living walls of food. These smaller trees bear fruit earlier and are easier to prune and harvest. Beneath them, they often sow clover or strawberries, using the shade wisely. Every square foot gives something back. I once watched an Amish father lift his son so he could pick the first ripe apple of the season. He said, "We plant close so the trees can talk to each other." It wasn't science, just quiet poetry, but it made sense. Modern horticulture agrees. High-density planting increases fruit yield per acre and reduces pest problems through natural airflow management. It's smart, timeless, and a perfect fit for smaller gardens. The hidden power of mulch paths. Where most people see garden paths as wasted ground, the Amish see opportunity. Between rows, they spread thick layers of straw, old hay, or wood chips, turning walkways into moisture traps. Each time it rains, those paths soak and slowly release water into nearby roots. Over time, the mulch breaks down, feeding worms and enriching soil life. I remember Eli, an Amish neighbor, tapping his boot on a soft mulch path, saying, "Even where we walk, something grows." And he was right. Tiny mushrooms peek through the hay like nature's reward. Studies now show these living paths can raise soil humidity and boost yield by nearly a third in dry conditions. Simple, natural, and self-renewing, a quiet system that keeps the whole garden breathing. The cold frame habit. In every Amish backyard, tucked near a barn or fence, you'll find old window frames resting on boxes of earth. These are cold frames, small, unheated greenhouses that stretch the growing season by weeks on both ends. Amish families use them for lettuce, spinach, and herbs long before frost danger has passed. By early spring, these boxes glow with life while snow still lingers nearby. Gardeners today would call this microclimate gardening, but the Amish have done it for generations. Cold frames use the sun's warmth efficiently, protect against frost, and let you harvest greens even when the rest of the world looks gray. Straw bale gardens. When soil is scarce or heavy with clay, the Amish sometimes plant directly into straw bales. After soaking them for a week and adding compost, those bales turn into soft, warm beds, perfect for tomatoes, cucumbers, or herbs. As the straw breaks down, it releases nutrients slowly and keeps roots from becoming waterlogged. One farmer laughed as he leaned on his straw garden and said, "My soil stays under the barn, but my vegetables don't seem to mind." Modern gardeners have caught on to this clever trick. Straw bale gardening can double root oxygen, reduce disease, and turn any patch of ground into a fertile plot. For the Amish, it's not a novelty. It's just another way of letting nature do the work. Kitchen door gardens. Every Amish home has a tiny plot right by the kitchen door. Herbs, lettuce, onions, and sometimes a single tomato vine tied to a wooden stake. It's small, but it's the heart of the household garden. These doorstep beds make cooking easier and keep fresh food within arm's reach. Even the scraps from dinner go straight back into the soil nearby. I once saw a grandmother snip parsley while her bread baked inside. She said softly, "If it's close, we'll use it. If it's far, we'll forget." That simple thought explains why Amish gardens waste so little. Modern studies call this behavior-based yield. The closer the food, the more it's harvested. The Amish have always known it by feel. Convenience grows abundance. Humble record keeping and seed journals. Most Amish gardens have no computers or charts, just worn notebooks and pencil marks. Each season, they note what grew well, when rain came, and how long each crop lasted. Besides some entries, you'll see a child scribble. The next generation is already learning. This practice helps them fine-tune small spaces year after year, turning experience into quiet science. I saw one old ledger where a man had written, "Beans like shade by the fence. Keep them there." Simple, wise, and effective. Researchers today call this adaptive learning. The Amish just call it paying attention. By tracking what works, they grow more food with less effort, keeping traditions and seeds alive for centuries. When you walk through an Amish garden, you'll notice something quiet before anything else, not the rows or the harvest, but the peace that hangs in the air. Every leaf, every vine, every inch of soil seems cared for, not managed. It's not a race to grow more. It's a rhythm, a steady partnership between hands and earth. They remind us that abundance isn't measured by acres or fancy tools. It grows from small, steady habits, from patience, gratitude, and a respect for limits. The Amish show that even a small garden can feed a family, and even a humble home can overflow with life. So wherever you are, whether it's a backyard, a porch, or a few pots by the window, remember, you don't need more space. You just need more care. If this kind of old-fashioned wisdom brings you comfort, go ahead and like this video or subscribe to help us keep these gentle traditions alive.